everyone. Welcome to another installment of the AASPT Specialization SIGS Residency Spotlight. I'm your host, Stephen Coombs, and today I'm joined by Dr. Peter Ames. Dr. Ames is a physical therapist and the program director of the Fairview Sports Physical Therapy Residency. Dr. Ames, thanks for joining us today.
Nice to be here, Stephen. Thanks for doing this. Looking forward to speaking with you.
My first question for you is, what are the highlights of the Fairview Sports PT Residency program?
Well, every program has to follow the guidelines set forth by the APTA, and those are curriculum that are set in the description of residency practice. But I think one of the areas that sets our program apart from other programs is we have a large cohort of learners. We have our 2 sports residents. We also have 2 orthopedic physical therapy residents. This year we just started a pelvic health residency program, so there is a little bit of overlap in their didactic work. And then we also work closely with the University of Minnesota and their primary care sports med fellows. So that's a nice cohort. Then there's a sports med fellow, surgical fellow, that our residents collaborate with and do a lot of didactic work. So just having that large interdisciplinary education, if you will, and they learn from each other. So I feel like that really sets our program apart from many programs. Another difference might be, again, we have to follow the specific curriculum requirements, but if people have specific interests in a certain area, based on our contacts in the region, I'm fairly confident that we can get people more experiences in those areas. So if you had an interest in hockey, in baseball, in soccer, in gymnastics, we have contacts. We have 29 high schools that we provide athletic training coverage for. So we have high schools across the region, and we can get more educational experiences for residents in that area. Quick story, years ago we had a resident who was very interested in dance. And based on our contacts with the physicians we know here, we were able to connect her with physicians in New York. And she went there. She went to some of the dance schools in New York. And then she sent a great picture of her backstage at Radio City Music Hall with her, the Rockettes, and a camel. And, it was a great picture. But she got to experience some things that she probably would not have been able to experience had she not had the connections with our program. So I feel like those are 2 areas that might separate us from some of the other programs out there.
My second question for you is, can you describe the clinic that the sports PT resident will be practicing at?
We accept up to 2 residents per academic year. And using the model that we're using for this academic year, the residents spend essentially 6 months in one environment and 6 months in the other, and they kind of switch halfway through. So, for example, one resident is spending 1 day in clinic with me and then 3 days in clinic at a different site with another mentor. So that rotation is with 2 different mentors, and then they're at they switch to the other rotation for the second 6 months of the academic year. Because we're a sports residency, they also spend time in the athletic training room. We have them in the high schools for the fall sports season, and then in the winter and the spring, they work at a Division III college in the area at 2 different ones, so they're not the same one. So they get the full spectrum of community sports medicine, and then they see the Division III collegiate athlete. Now, moving forward, we are partnering more closely with the University of Minnesota. As a matter of fact, first time being said kind of publicly, we will likely be changing our name to somewhat incorporate the University of Minnesota. So we're excited for those changes and to be able to see how that might help grow our sports residency program moving forward.
My third question for you is, what is the patient population that your resident works with?
Population age would range anywhere from, I think they've seen as young as 8. Matter of fact, I had an 8-year-old ACL, if you believe it or not. to as old as, your 70s, 80s. I don't know if we've had a 90-year-old, but 70s and 80s. And community sports medicine, they're going to see the high school athletes. They will see the collegiate athletes, but then they'll also see the community athletes who are, working 9 to 5, but they want to get back to training for their 5K or their half marathon, or they want to complete at a high level of golf, or they're training for some other sport that they're interested in. So the athletes that they will work with are going to be wide and varied. And the sports residency programs have to have, the requirement is for the residents to see a minimum of 40% athletic population. But that means that that would include not only the athletes that are obvious, the high school, the collegiate, but also the ones, again, like I just described. They want to get back to playing tennis, or in this area, pickleball. It's very popular. It's popular all over, I think. But that would include those athletes as well. And then they will also be seeing, your for lack of a better term, your non-athletes, but the people that are coming in with your overuse injuries and your various back strains and pains and whatnot. So wide variety with that minimum 40% athletic population that they will see, and that age range again is varied as well.
My next question for you is, what is the learning structure of your program? How do you determine competency with your residents?
Yeah, that's a question I guess we don't get a ton of, but competency, obviously they have to be a graduate and they have to be licensed to practice in the state of Minnesota. And then competency is determined on a weekly, monthly, semi-annually, and annual basis. This is part of the accreditation process. As a matter of fact, we are currently going through our reaccreditation, which will take place sometime next year. But in any case, the learning and the competency portion is part of the didactic work for our program, is such that they have a manual skills lab. For example, on Tuesdays from 8 till 11, they start at the head and they go all the way down to the foot over the course of the academic year, and they dive deep. Well, 4 times a year, there's a manual skills exam where they're being tested out on the things that they've learned. We have additional didactic learning materials and lecture materials that they are provided and tested on. There's clinic exams. There's the mentoring sessions where residents are evaluated as to their competency. And then just clinically looking at how are they faring with their patient outcomes. And that's an easy way to determine how they're doing just in their day-to-day patient interactions. So there's a wide variety of measures that we look to see and check competency. And then there is a final exam at the end, and it's awful, and it's like 127 questions, and it takes like 3.5 hours, and it's brutal, and everyone says that. However, after taking it, they sit for their boards, they all say, you know what, that was a good help. I feel like that definitely helped prepare me for the board. So as brutal as that one is, it does help them prepare. So it's not all for naught. So those are primarily the ways that we will evaluate competency.
My next question for you is, does the resident have opportunities to advance their skill as a researcher or educator?
Yes. As a researcher, for example, since 2011, I think, almost every resident has been able to begin and complete a research project that they were able to submit an abstract for the following year to CSM, and we've been largely successful in having those be accepted for either a poster or a platform presentation at CSM. So as you know, it's very difficult to complete a research project within a year. We're very proud of the way our program has been successful in that. And we kind of judge success on, number one, can they complete the project? And if so, can they get it to the point where they can submit it for presentation at CSM? And like I said, I think we've been fairly successful at that over the years. As I mentioned earlier, we will be collaborating more with the University of Minnesota. The faculty member over at the University of Minnesota, he is a PhD PT, and this is the first year we're working with him, and we're very excited about where this will help take the program from a research standpoint. So this will be new. Prior to that, we were working with a research consultant who has been with us for years, and it was great working with him. Unfortunately, he moved out of town, so that didn't necessarily bode well for our program. But now moving forward, again, looking forward to this relationship that has been established, and hoping that more research can be produced out of that relationship. We have been successful, not to the degree that we would have liked, but in having our residents publish. So we've had two of our research studies by former residents have been published, and then they have gone on to publish non-residency related items, but still it indicates, hey, at least they got a taste of research and they enjoyed it enough to do a little bit more of it. So we're proud of that. From an education standpoint, our program is not, we do not have a lot of education of teaching, and I will often tell that to potential applicants. If they're looking for a program that has a lot of education, ours traditionally has not been that way. However, that will be changing again based on this new relationship with the University of Minnesota. To what extent, I don't know. That will be coming up over the course of the next year. So if you're interested in still doing this next year, Stephen, please reach out at that point, and I can give you more breaking news. But we're looking forward to developing that more as far as the teaching is concerned, moving forward.
My next question for you is, where have most of your residency graduates gone on to after they finish your program?
The huge majority of residents have graduated and gone on to working in a community sports medicine facility. So for the first, I arrived in 2006, the program started in 2004. For the first 10 plus years, nearly every resident actually stayed on with our organization. That has changed due to market changes. But even still, the residents that have graduated, for the most part, have gone on to orthopedic and sports related clinics, most of them in the area. Some of them have moved out of the area. Actually, one of them is back in the Chicago area. We've had some that have gone on to fellowship. 3 off the top of my head right now have gone on to do fellowship work, and actually right now we have 4 that are in professional sports at some level. So it's kind of fun and exciting to talk to them about their experiences there, and it's also a nice experience for potential residents that are in our program. Hey, if you'd like to get an experience in this environment, in this setting, we can offer that because of the relationships that we have with those people still that are kind of scattered around the country. There's a couple in Arizona, one down in Florida, one here in the Minnesota area. So, but the huge majority, as I said, have been working in orthopedic and sports clinic.
And my last question for you is, if applicants have questions about the program, how can they find out more information?
Go to the website that the APTA has set up. ABPTRFE. I think it's .org. I should know that by heart, but it's a great website. Kendra Harrington has done a great job trying to get that website more user friendly, and you can. I think select out based on the resident. There at one point, I haven't been on there in a little while, but I think at one point there was a map that allowed you to select out, hey, where are there sports residencies in the country? And it pulls up the map, and you can kind of see, oh, look at this. And this one's here, this one's there. I want to stay in this region, or I don't care where it is, I just want to get in. So it gives applicants a good idea of where the programs are, and all the contact information is on there. If someone wanted to reach out directly to me, my email is pames, AMES, the number 1, at fairview.org, pames1 at fairview.org. All that contact information is on that American Board of Physical Therapy and Residency and Fellowship Education website. And just, I know you didn't ask me this question, but I just want to add this to the discussion, because if find out more about programs, contact the program director, absolutely. But just keep in mind that programs, for better or worse, are not necessarily in competition with each other. Before we started recording this, you and I were speaking about your program director, and and I remember him, and I know when he was applying to programs, and the programs that are kind of near my area of Minneapolis, down at Mayo and down at Gunderson, and in Wisconsin, at University of Wisconsin, and up in North Dakota. And we all kind of, we see each other, we know each other, and we're all trying to help grow these programs because it's for the better of the profession. And, this is becoming more and more common, and eventually this will be the norm where, everyone graduates from physical therapy school, and the huge majority of physical therapists do go to fellowship. Right now, there's just simply not enough programs to support that. But when I started here in 2006, we were one of 6 programs. I think at last count, we're up to 50 sports programs in just 14 years. So that's awesome growth. And, I hope that map that's on that website, I hope that, eventually lights up with the number of programs in the next 14 years that are out there for applicants to look forward to.
Excellent. Well, that concludes the next installment of the Residency Spotlight podcast. Thank you, Dr. Ames, for joining us, and we hope you all will tune in next time.